Can you harvest rhubarb in August? This is a question that I've had ever since I moved into my house last summer and found rhubarb already growing in the garden. So I did a bit of research and wanted to share what I learned. The typical recommendation is to stop harvesting or dramatically reduce your harvesting of the rhubarb stalks by midsummer, so by the end of June or beginning of July. And this is because you want to leave enough leaves on the plant so it can store energy to survive the winter and to regrow the next year. I personally have too much rhubarb in my garden. I'd like to get rid of it. In fact, I'm actively trying to get rid of it, or maybe not even get rid of it, but trying to stop it from growing so much and spreading. It's really in like the prime real estate of the garden. It gets a lot of sun, it's shaded by the most intense sun. So I'd like to grow a lot of other things in that place. And if I just leave the rhubarb there, it'll start to take up way too much space. In fact, I did completely remove the rhubarb plant in that area at the beginning of the season. So in very early spring, I thought I had pulled most of it out. I even dug out like some of the roots, and I must have missed some, or yeah, there was like enough root mass in there. It's probably a pretty mature plant that's been there for a few years. And so it just sprung back. In fact, a lot of it sprung back. And that rhubarb is what I'm gonna be harvesting today, or what I already have. And it's August 7th today. So pretty well past that beginning of July deadline that most people recommend. And the way that I am doing this and why I'm justifying it is because I don't want my rhubarb to spread, because it is a little bit more mature and established in that position. So it has a lot of energy stored in its roots already, and I think can easily do so. There's a significant amount of leaves on there. If this were a first or second year plant and I wanted it to remain prolific the next year, then I wouldn't be harvesting. And something also to note is that if your rhubarb has already flowered, it's probably not the best time. If you're able to cut those flower stalks off, then the harvest should still be pretty good in this time of year in August. Producing the flowers just takes up a lot of energy. So if you're doing that and also harvesting into these later months of the season, then it's probably not going to be great for your plant next year. Or you're probably just not going to get as many stalks next year. So some tips for harvesting is you don't want to harvest more than 2/3 of your plant, or in my case, I'm just harvesting about half or close to that, and still leaving a bunch to produce energy to keep the plant healthy and alive during the winter. And what you want to be harvesting are the ripe stalks. So those are the ones that are going to be more sturdy and growing straight out of the plant. The color of ripe rhubarb stalks is entirely dependent on the variety. So you might have a variety that produces green stalks even while they're ripe, one that has sort of speckled red and pink, or something like that. Mine is pretty red at the base, gets speckled throughout, and green throughout. I haven't seen my plant, I don't know what variety I have, but I haven't seen all of the stalks be like pure red. So I think that's not something to expect when you're harvesting. And how you want to harvest is you can grab the ripe stalk from the base and kind of twist and pull it out. And the reason why you wouldn't want to use pruners or a knife to cut it is because that extra bit at the bottom that is left when you cut it is just going to rot in place. So not great for the overall health of the plant. And also when you pull it, it is pulling it from closer to the rootstock, and that when you do that, that sends the signal to the plant to produce new stalks. So that'll keep the plant productive and vigorous. The leaves are poisonous, so you want to be cutting them as you're harvesting them. They contain a compound called oxalic acid, which is pretty poisonous when consumed in large quantities. So I do it as I go. I will go into the plant and harvest with one hand, and then I'll have my pruners in the other, and just cut the top part off with the leaf as I'm pulling them out. And the way I'm going to process these stalks are, I am just going to rinse them thoroughly. I'll rinse them out with a hose outside, and then come in and rinse them in the sink, just really get all the dirty parts off. I'll cut off the wonky end bits and just cut them into like 1/2 inch pieces. What's important to note, and this is something I was confused by, I've never really cooked with rhubarb before, or used it, or really even eaten it very much. I know it's pretty popular where I live. A lot of gardeners use it and eat it, but I just have never had it. So the green part of the rhubarb stalk is not poisonous. It does not contain like oxalic acid in any specific amounts. It just might be a little more unripe than the rest of the stalk, so that might be important to keep in mind while you're cooking with it, and you might just want to add in more sugar. But it's perfectly fine to have, and I'm storing a lot of it. Because I have like such an abundance of rhubarb, and I'm not fully sure what I want to do with it just yet, I'm quite interested in making some wine or fermenting some wine at home, and maybe I will use some rhubarb along with the raspberries I'm harvesting. I might still have some frozen strawberries from last year. I wasn't able to save many strawberries this year. We really just ate it all. But yeah, I was thinking that would be a fun way to use these rhubarb stalks. So I will lay them out on a baking sheet and freeze them for about an hour or two before I put them into bags and really seal that up to be frozen. And the reason why I do this, I do the same thing with raspberries or strawberries, any other fruit that I'd like to store, is because when you are using it, when you take it out of the freezer later, it'll be easy if they're frozen like on their own and not frozen as a big clump. It'll be easy to like pull it out of the bag, each individual piece, instead of it all being frozen together in one big clump, and that gets kind of hard to use, hard to get the right amount for whatever recipe you're using or whatever you need it for. Anyway, that is what I've learned about harvesting rhubarb, and how I've justified harvesting it right now in August. Again, it's very prolific where I live in Alaska in Zone 4B. So it might not be the same in other areas, but it was there. I kind of want it gone. I definitely don't want it to get bigger. And I'll find a use for these stalks. So thanks for watching. Bye.